That third time I went back, the amount of physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional distress that I went through, that was it.
Can you speak on one of the worst times that you kind of dealt with, like
The last time.
Real life. It ain't real life. Just ain't real. Real life street stars. You know what time it is.
You mentioned before the abuse, you got with Nature Boy. I have to ask you, when did the abuse start and what was that abuse early on?
The abuse started when I was about 4 months pregnant.
How far in the relationship were you pregnant? Like, I know you said 4 years overall, but how far were you into?
I was about a year, maybe 2-3 months in the actual situation. Like a year and 3 months. Yeah. In the actual situation.
9 months, you're no longer with
right.
The first situation. Now you're with Nature Boy, and that's it happening. So about a few months, within a year after being with Nature Boy, you're pregnant now.
Yeah.
And you're 3 months pregnant. And like if you could talk about the first instance where you felt like, what's going on?
Well, at this point, when I realized, because at first I didn't realize it, because he was never physical. Like at first, when it first started, the abuse first started, he was never physical. He was always emotional and verbal. But I never looked at that as abuse because I come from that. I grew up with that. That became a normal thing in my mind. So one day we was living in Belize, and it was a situation where a woman came, the girl Kendra, Sheba, she came to Belize, and he wanted to be in a relationship with her, and I said no, and I was completely against it. She was a virgin at this time, and he wanted to take her virginity, and he told me that he wanted to do that, and I was like, you're not doing that, not on my watch. And he physically abused me right then and there, and this was about 3-4 months pregnant, and from that initial moment, it was all he wrote, rather. And that's when I started experiencing physical abuse from him.
So, Bev, I have to ask you, what was your reaction to that physical abuse? Because sometimes in relationships, based on how you react is how things will continue or carry on. What was your initial reaction upon that initial situation?
I was fighting his ass back. Like, we was fighting. So this led to him being more extreme. Like, if you, hypothetically speaking, you physically abuse somebody and they back down, you're not gonna abuse them because they backing down unless you're a real psychotic person and want to abuse that. But that wasn't the case. He physically abused me to a small degree. And I was like, you ain't gonna hit me, period. Like, so I'm fighting him, like we fighting. But now he's choking me out because he need to get me to stop trying to fight him back. Now he's like trying to exile me from existence because I'm trying to fight him back. So in my mind, and at this juncture still has my documents confiscated all the way over there somewhere where I don't know, I'm like, okay, how can I not be in a situation where I'm gonna get strangled and not get abused? So it always turned into me doing what he wanted me to do, but I could never get with it. So it will always be physical and then ending in him choking me out and blacking out and then waking up and being like, I still don't have my documentation. I'm 5 months pregnant now. I'm 6 months pregnant now. I'm 7 months pregnant now. Still don't have my documentation. I'm 7 months pregnant now. I'm 8 months pregnant. I'm having a baby now. I still don't have my documentation. How the fuck I'm gonna get out of it? How I'm gonna leave? Still also while not wanting to do the things that he wanted me to do. So I'll just back down and be like, you know what? Fuck everybody. I don't even care. But my body is shutting down. I'm shutting down. So he's angry with me because I can't physically perform with him or be with him. So he's forcing me at this point with the women, without the women. And I'm sitting there like, I want to leave. So I'm going through this tug of war online because he's recording me, making it seem like to the world that I'm just crazy and I don't really know what I want. But he's got all my shit confiscated. We in the middle of nowhere in a foreign country. I'm pregnant. I have no communication with my family for almost 2 years at this point. You know? So I'm just like, this was in the beginning though. You know, after I had Eliana, that's when I started thinking about, I really want the father, you know, because I'm not thinking, as I'm having her, I'm not thinking that he's actually like crazy. I'm not thinking like this man would try to do anything to destroy me. I'm not thinking like that. I'm thinking that he's just coming from trauma just like me, and I have to give him grace. I have to love him through his pain. I have to love him through his trauma. And that was one of his big things too. Like, you have to stay by your black man's side. You can't leave him. You can't give up on him. You got to go through some things to, you know, love doesn't come easy. And I'm in one of those states and I'm like, I'm considering, you know, considering him, considering Ellie. So I'm putting myself on the back burner and taking on things that I shouldn't necessarily have to, because I want him to be better. And I also want a future for my child that I technically never had as a child. I'm fighting for that. So I'll stay in a relationship. When I did have a chance to get my documentation, I did leave. But the only reason why I went back 3 times.
To Ohio, or were you leaving to?
Well, over the time span of 4 years, I left maybe about 3 times, and then I went back. Yeah. And the only reason why I went back was because Nature Boy would get me on the phone and he would be like, I'm going to not be in this polygamous relationships anymore. We're going to make it work. We're going to do what we have to do to heal from our traumas. You know, sweet talking me, wooing me, you know, being romantic, doing all the things that he can to get me back in his presence. And I'm like, he's already the father of my child. I want to make it work for the sake of my child. So I'm like, all right, cool. Every single time I went back, within a matter of 2 weeks, we was already in a polygamous relationship. He was already physically abusing me. So I'm like, now the first 2 times I left and I went back, I never calculated in my mind that he would do it again. I'm not thinking that he's going to do it again. I'm thinking that we're going to get better. I'm banking on the fact that we're going to get better. We're going to start healing. Man, that 3rd time I went back, the amount of physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional distress that I went through, that was it.
Can you speak on one of the worst times that you kind of dealt with, like
last time, November, from November of 2020, we were in California, I believe, because we kept getting deported from Costa Rica. We got deported from Costa Rica. We got deported from Mexico. So we would end up back in the States. We were in Las Vegas at the time because we did get married. And he bought me a van because one of my biggest dreams in life was to always be a van lifer. And so he bought me a van to, you know, use that against me. And he drove me in this van back to Mexico. And once we got to Mexico, he decided that we were going to go move to Puerto Rico. And I'm trying to escape the whole time. Like, I'm trying to plan my exodus. So we wind up in Puerto Rico. Fast forward, we wind up in Puerto Rico. And the physical abuse went up a notch. Like him strangling me out has turned into like holding my neck longer, like no oxygen, like hitting me in my face, bust lips, bruise. I'm actually kept away from the tribe and from other people because my face is messed up. And he doesn't want other people to see that because he don't want them to think like he's bad or anything like that. So I'm kept away most of the time. So I'm like, okay. And I'm back in a situation where my documentation is gone. Physical abuse went up a notch. Now I gotta play a mastermind game. How do you play a mastermind game when you're not when you don't use things to your advantage to get what you want?
Real life. If it ain't real life, just ain't real. Real life street Starz.